Welcome to today's presentation. I'm Amanda van Santen and I work for the RYA training department. Today I thought I would look at my top tips for creating a presentation. Today I'm just looking at some simple top tips, so many of you may already know the elements that I'm going to cover. Everything's very individual when you're creating a presentation, so you'll have your own ideas or your likes and dislikes about certain areas when you're creating a presentation. This is just designed to share the top tips that I've picked up while I've been creating presentations over the years, watched other people's presentations and picked up some elements through the training that I've undertaken. It's by no means gospel. There's so much information out there and there's so many amazing people creating presentations every day that this is just my information that I'm sharing with you. Likewise, PowerPoint is just one of the many options we've got, but hopefully the elements that I cover you will be able to transfer over onto other platforms that you're using. Remember to choose the platform that's right for you, but also your students and your delivery. And by that, I mean that make sure you're familiar with the platform or the program that you're trying to use or the delivery that you're trying to use. Make sure it lends to your students. So our students learn in many different ways. Some of them need to read about things. Some of them need to do things visually or give it a go. So be really careful when you're delivering a presentation or some kind of topic to make sure that you deliver it in many different ways so as much can be picked up as possible by the students you have in front of you. Also be very careful about your delivery. So today we're looking at using PowerPoint and we're delivering it through slides. But if I was delivering something like personal clothing, I might choose to do it very practically by laying all the elements out on the floor and letting people touch and look at the boots, the wetsuit, the buoyancy aids, and there's some familiarisation there as well for when they do it for themselves. The same would be for rigging a boat or rigging a windsurf board. I'd do that practically rather than doing a PowerPoint presentation. If I was looking at tides, I might do a mixture. So have a real think about how you might deliver and what you're trying to deliver. I think there's also some real tips to remember when we're creating or putting our presentation together. It's a good idea to try and be brief, clear and simple with our slides. I like to try and treat each slide like a billboard, so I use bullet points and try to avoid long sentences. I limit the words and perhaps use keywords instead so that I can then talk about that sentence afterwards. Try not to overcrowd the slide. Use clear, legible font and try to be consistent. And we'll have a look at consistency on one of the top tips I cover. Be visual wherever possible. Remember to spell check. And also, perhaps, if it works, use a summary slide at the end to tell everybody or remind everybody of what you've covered. So today, the top tips I want to share with you are design and theme, slide master, page layouts, reusing slides, adding images or charts or external factors into my presentation, video and audio, transition and animation but motion paths, differing views, and then also how to save it as a PDF. So let's have a look at number one. So design and theme is in the design tab. And for each of my top tips, I've got a short video to show you to explain where these can all be found. So the design tab can be found over on the left-hand side at the top. When we click on it, we got lots of options. If we open it out further with the arrow, we can see that there's loads of variations. Something I've used most recent will always be at the top, and then others available to me will appear later on. A design ideas box opens up on the right hand side, and that just helps us lay out the different options we have. We can change the colour, the background, the font, and on the left hand side you'll see all our slides changing when we have a look at the ideas. For today I'm going to stick with the RYA slide that we have and that we use internally for our presentations to keep everything consistent. The next thing I wanted to show you was Slide Master. I find this really useful. It's in the View tab, and as you can see here, it's on the Slide tab. So again, here's a short video up to the middle of the page. We've got View, and as we go over to the left-hand side, you'll see Slide Master. If we click on this, over on the left-hand side appears all the different page layouts and options that we've got available to us. And you'll see the consistent theme going throughout it from the RYA slide. If I click on the one at the top, and maybe I want to change it, perhaps I want to insert an RYA logo. So I go to Picture. I've got the logo on my desktop, so I can search for it. Can type in RYA logo. Once I've got the logo, I can insert it, and I can choose the size and whereabouts on the page it's going to go. So I'm going to put it in the bottom left-hand corner, and you'll see that in all the slides now, in my options, there's the RYA logo. So that's consistent now throughout my presentation. The other options I might have is to insert a footer or a header, and that's in the Insert tab that you'll see I've opened. So the date automatically comes up, and I can choose what my footer says. Previously, it was about a dinghy instructor course. So now I'm going to change that, and I'm going to create Amanda van Santen RYA template. And I've got a choice at the bottom to apply it to all or just to apply to one. And I'm going to apply to all, and I'll see that that's come all the way through all the slides now. Remember, we need to close it. So go to Slide Master, over to Close the View, and then it will revert back to our original slide where we were. And you'll also see that the logo, the date, and the footer are now on my slides. Number 3 is page layouts. I find this quite useful when I'm inserting text or photos or videos into a slide of a presentation. Makes it easier for me to look at reducing the text or enlarging the text, or maybe concentrating on how many bullets I'm having on a page. So the page layout is found in the Home tab, just on the left-hand side. Use the drop-down arrow with all your different options of how you might like to lay it out, from blank pages to 2 boxes and a title, to 1 box and a title. Here, you've got the front page of the RYA theme looks like. This would be if I had just 1 box of text. You see it spreads out to the whole slide. But for today, I'm going to use 2. So 2 boxes, one on the left, one on the right, that I can either fill with an image or text. But I can change this. I could do blank if I wanted to and not have anything on there, and then I'd have freedom to maybe put a big image all the way on it. If I take my image away, you can see that there's icons in there as well, and this will enable to insert pictures, videos or something similar directly into that box I've chosen from the page layout. I find this a really useful element to make sure everything keeps uniform, and then the Design tab will help me do that. The other element that I find really useful in the page layout is if I copy and paste this text and just keep putting it in, you'll notice that when I get to the bottom, the text starts to reduce and get smaller and smaller. And if I remove it again, the text enlarges. I find that really useful for keeping all the text uniform within a box. The next one I thought we'd look at today is about reusing slides. And I find this a really useful option to use when I'm working on different presentations and I've already created one and I'd like to reuse the slides that I had in that, especially if it's an external presentation where I just want to refer back to something I've covered previously. So this is in the Home tab, and we can keep the theme and the design, which is also really useful. So if we go up onto the Home tab, we'll see the Reuse Slides tab. If we click on it, it opens up on the right-hand side, and we'll see all the options available to us that they're recommending that we could utilise. So most of mine, as you can see, are RYA presentations that I've delivered in the past. But the one I'm going to use today is a Duke of Edinburgh one, because that's got a different theme, and I can show you how when I insert it, it keeps the theme option. So I click on it, it opens the whole presentation out, and I can choose which slides I want to add. So I'm going to use the first slide, the title, and you'll see that it appears over in the left-hand side. And then I'm also going to do the second, and you'll see one after the other they appear, and the theme has been kept. So I've got the identical slide that I was looking for. Next, I thought we'd look at some inserting of images and charts. We find this in the Insert tab, and the Insert tab has quite a lot of elements that we can utilise when we're doing our presentation, and we'll go back to it again later on with something else I want to show you. So here we can add images, charts, etc. from all different places, external and internal, to the platform we're using. So it could be that they're online, could be that they're on my desktop, but also they could be through the layouts page or external to our layout of our slides. And also we can resize it really easily. So from the Home tab, next door to it is the Insert tab. You can see all these different options that become available to us. Anything like comments, text boxes, word art, as well as videos and audio, perhaps insert a podcast. We've also, as you can see in the layout box that we've got the options in there as well, so we can do it direct from our slide rather than having to go to the Insert tab. But today I want to show it from the Insert tab. So I can choose from my device, or I can choose an online picture. So let's see. So these are all the different categories I've got available to me. But today I want to look for a windsurfing picture. So I type windsurfing into the box at the top, press enter, and all the different online pictures available to me come up. I'm going to use one at the top right, and you'll see the Insert tab goes up to 1. If I press another one, it shows me I'm trying to insert 2 pictures. So let's go back to 1, let's insert it, and you'll see it's gone straight into my box. On the right hand side, the design ideas just gives me different options of how I might like to lay that out. Here I can resize it and fit it neatly onto my slide. Video and audio uses the same tab, so again we're going to use the audio tab, but this time we're going to look for a video or an audio. Here we can also find a screen recording tab, so if we wanted to record something we were doing on one of our slides, we can do that, and then we can insert it into our presentation. So we go back to our Insert tab. Sorry, we're going to go to our layout, page layout first, because that's where we had other options where we can also insert a video from. Or, as I mentioned earlier, we can do it from the Insert tab. So here's the video, the different options, the device, or online. If we do it online, we need the URL. So, but here, as we did it before through the Insert tab, now I'm going to do it through the page layout. So I've clicked on it. It's brought up a panel, I've chosen a video, and here it is. The Design tab opens, and I can test it by playing it and making sure it works. I can make it bigger or smaller, so I could make it take up the whole page of my slide if I wanted to. Next, I wanted to look at transitions. So the transitions are the actions between each individual slide or between all the slides. So the way they transfer from one to the next. You have to be a bit careful with this because if they're too fancy, people start getting distracted and maybe a little bit bored thinking you're trying to be a bit fancy. So really think carefully with how you use transitions. We'll have a look at how we insert them. So when we're trying to do it between an individual slide, we go up to the top, we choose transitions, and we can see all the different options available to us. Be careful what you choose. This is an example of one that's called wind, which is quite fancy. So I think for today, I might keep it quite simple, and I'm just going to use fade. If I wanted to do more than just an individual, I need to go to View, Slide Master, and this will enable me to do it for all my slides so they all are consistent and done in the same way. So I choose Transitions. I go to the one I want to do and I'm going to click Fade. So this makes sure that every single slide in my presentation transitions in the same way. Now I need to remember to close my Slide Master, click Close and go back to it. And now the transition is done, the same throughout my whole presentation. Next is animations. The animation tab shows us all the different various animations that we can do with the text or the pictures, or how our slide is introduced at each click or over timing. So we can add animation as a group or as individual elements. There's also actions that we can do with it as well. So let's take a look at how animation works. From the Home tab, we go over to the right-hand side and we click on Animation. We need to highlight an area that we want to animate, and you'll see that everything then starts to colour in. It's always best to use your animation pane. I find this the best way to make sure I can see what's happening and how I'm doing it. So now I've highlighted my text, I can see all the different options. This one's quite fancy, this is spin. If I highlight it again and choose something a bit simpler, fade in, you'll see that the writing just fades in. You see over on the right hand side the animation pane, and here I've got different options. So I can start on a click, start with previous, and you'll see the numbers. So I know that one's happening one after the other. I'm going to do this again. 1, 2, 3. But this one, I'm going to ask to start with the one before, so no number appears this time. And now I can test it and see what it looks like. Here we go. And they all appear as they would do on my presentation. And if I want to get rid of it or time it differently, I can then use the timing by highlighting them all and making sure they all go at the same time. And here we go. They happen a little bit slower, and I can control all of that. The next one I wanted to look at is again in the animations, but this time it's about motion paths. Motion paths are really useful if I wanted to illustrate something like going through a racing finish line, going around some buoys, showing a manoeuvre, for example, man overboard, or picking up a mooring, or the no-go zone, tacking upwind. All of these are really simple to do with motion paths. So here I have Little Boat at the bottom of my page, and I'm going to make it go around the buoys and through the finish line. So now we're going to have a look at how I created this right from the beginning. So first of all, I need to make sure that I insert the pictures that I need so I can create my motion path. So I need to find a boat. So there's loads of different options. Again, we saw this when we were inserting an image. So we could insert a nice wooden boat, but actually let's stick with something a bit more nautical. So I'm going to go for a sailing boat. Let's see if I can find a sailing boat. So we need to insert it in, and we need to resize it because obviously it's going to travel around my page. I'm going to get rid of this text at the bottom that comes with it, resize it. So the next thing I need to do is insert some shapes. So I click on shapes, I use some circles. I'm just going to draw some small circles. If I do Control C and then Control V is paste. So I've copied it and then I paste it. I do Control V again and they're all identical sizes. Control V again and I've got my fourth marker buoy that I can send my boat round. The other element I had was my finish line. So I'm going to go back to shapes. I'm going to draw my finish line. And then also I wanted to add some text. So insert, go round to text, add my text in. So this was finish line. Oh. And then I finished it. So now I need to change the colour to make sure it all fits in. And I can go to animations and I can do my motion path. So at the top, click on animations. I need to click on what I want to animate. So that's my boat. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see motion paths, lines, arcs, but I'm going to use custom. It's a bit raw, but I draw it freehand with my mouse, going around the buoys and then up through my finish line. Double click it to finish and my boat goes round very fast. So now if I open up my animation pane, I can just slow it down a bit. So I'm going to go to timing. The timing box opens. I'm going to change medium to very slow. Click OK. And then my boat travels around it a bit slower and through the finish line. So you can see how easy it is to set up and how we can use it for different things that we have within our scheme. To have a look at what it would look like to the people we're presenting it to, this is our slide view, it's our presentation view, and it would go round. And there we go, through the finish line. This is one I think you'll really enjoy, so happy playing. Another element I find quite useful when I finish my presentation and I want to take a look back through it, the View tab. This assists me in creating my presentation and then reorganising it or organising it once I've finished it. There's different views, outline view, slide sorter, which is really good. I can delete it, hide them, rearrange them. I can check the order and make sure it makes sense. I can make notes. So one of the tabs is notes, and I could add notes and reminders for myself or for those that might be reading it later. So let's have a look at that. So if we go up to the top, travel along the top to the View tab, and then here you'll see it opens up. So we've got normal, we've got outline view, we've got slide sorter, so I can move them around. I can delete them if I want to, but I can just make sure they're in the right order and it all makes sense. I can delete slides if I want to, and then I can go into notes. I can write some notes at the bottom. So anything I really want to make sure I deliver and remember, I can then write them at the bottom and that reminds me. Anything fundamental to my presentation is good to put here. These are handouts, so you can sort out how you want your handouts to be delivered. And if I go back to view, remember we've got slide sorter, slide master in there as well. So I'm going to go back to my normal view, and now I've got the view here. Also at the bottom right hand side is also similar views. So the last one I wanted to show you today was saving as a PDF. I actually use this all the time and I find it really useful for sharing my presentation. So if I want to email it to somebody, most of the time a PowerPoint presentation is quite large. By saving it as a PDF, it's a great way to share it in a smaller size. People can have a look at it, they can make comment, and then they can send it back to you. It's also really useful for doing handouts. So if I run a webinar or I present a presentation on a theory topic, I can then use my PDF for handouts for people to have afterwards. So thank you very much for listening today. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Some of it was very simple, but hopefully you've taken something away today. And remember, share your knowledge as well, because there's so much information out there. It's really useful to help others when they're creating presentations or delivering theory. Thank you very much.